Thumos is helping men. Skillset, mindset, Heartset, we're helping men. That's fantastic for the wives, for the kids, for these men's moms and dads, their brothers, their community. I think one of the reasons we're so successful is we understand and keep in front of us the balance and the need for the doing and the being. The doing part is easy as Americans today. We're constantly doing. We're constantly busy. Problem with that is it often leads to anxiety with a man. And there's simple cures for anxiety, like some more doing in the form of exercise, but there's a big component of being. There's a big component of not doing. Maybe it's even undoing. Going internal, introspective, giving the body some rest. We understand the importance of balancing the doing and the being. And I've got a couple of thoughts on what tends to work well, or at least it's worked well for me and a lot of men in Thumos. Number one, this may not be possible for everybody, but to take some time off each year. When I was in corporate America, for at least the last decade, I would take 2 weeks off end of year. I would spend that time being as opposed to doing as much as possible. I would get outside of my normal routine, which is very good for the mind. I would spend a lot of time connecting with the family and with the kids. That's not always easy. But I would spend a whole lot of time reflecting and journaling, looking back. I would look back to journals, say 10 years ago, because it would show me what God was doing in my life. Very hard to see at the time, very easy to see looking back. It would make me feel nostalgic, make me feel very grateful. But I would also try to turn off the mind a little bit, listen to some music, stare at some water, spend some time in nature, meditate, or at least start to meditate. But spending some time off, look, I know of a particular man who has not had a week's vacation without work in over 20 years. How do you think that's working out for him? He doesn't have time. He's too busy. It's not a good place to be. Clearly, he would be more productive if he took that time off. So time off scheduled in. We don't always get 2 weeks, and we have to wait a year in order to do it each year, if that's the plan. So what about the day-to-day? Why don't a man start the day strong and finish the day strong? And by strong, I'm talking about being. I was listening to a friend of mine on Facebook. His name is Jesse. He was talking about the takeoff of the plane and the landing of the plane, how they both needed to be done properly. See, a lot of guys have an AM routine. They're doing that. They're waking up. They're doing their coffee and their medication, coffee and conversation and connection, doing their Bible study, their prayers, meditation. All that's fantastic. They're starting the day in a very good spot. But when they go to bed, when it's nighttime, they're kind of like not landing properly. They're crashing the plane. Proper landing, proper takeoff, it's a beautiful cycle. I've gotten to where with my routine, I'm doing that. Proper landing, proper takeoff. When I get up in the morning, my average readiness score per the Oura ring is in the 80s. My average sleep score is also in the 80s, mid-80s. Mid-80s for both, average. So I'm starting at an advantage each and every day because of the proper takeoff and the proper landing of that plane. So that's another thing a person can do, AM and PM. Take that plane off properly, land it properly. The other thing is, as we get stressed throughout the day, as we get busy doing, it's okay to just take a moment. Go inside, go internal, find breath, find gratitude. A few deep breaths, a smile, even if you don't want to smile, listing out a few things you're grateful for, it only takes a few seconds, but it can make a big difference. All of this is really about understanding the yin and the yang, the balance of doing versus being. And I say versus by design, but guess what? It doesn't have to be a verse. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be an and. There's plenty of times where a man can get to where he's actually doing something, some activity, but he can also do it from a place of presence. He can bring being into the doing. In other words, he can walk and clear his mind. Those are some things to think about, my friends, but at the end of the day, to me it's pretty simple. There's a doing and there's a being. A lot of this doing has to be undone or unlearned, and we got to learn how to be more and perhaps even do less. And by the way, when we do less, we probably ought to do things that are more impactful. Those are my thoughts. Thumos USA. Take care.